The stars burned cold and silent as the Valari convoy cut through the darkness of space. 3 sleek silver ships moved in formation, their hulls reflecting the distant light of a dying sun. Inside the lead vessel, Ambassador Thrall stood at the command center, watching the navigation screens with narrow eyes. The diplomatic mission had gone well. Trade agreements were signed. Alliances were formed. Now they just needed to reach home. But the neutral zone was dangerous. Everyone knew this. Pirates, raiders, and worse things lurked in these empty spaces between civilizations dotted in a small cabin at the back of the ship. A young Valari girl sat alone. Her name was Yuna. She was 12 years old, or close to it in human terms. Her skin was pale blue, and her large dark eyes held a sadness too deep for someone so young. She had no parents. They died in a plague 3 years ago. Since then, she had been passed from one guardian to another, never staying anywhere long, never truly wanted. The diplomats brought her along because they had to. Some old law required them to transport orphans to the homeworld. But they never spoke to her. They never looked at her. To them, she was just cargo with a heartbeat. Yuna pressed her hand against the cold window and watched the stars. She wondered if anyone out there would ever want her. The attack came without warning. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed through the corridors. The ship shook as plasma fire struck the hull. Yuna fell from her seat and hit the floor hard. She heard shouting, running feet, the terrible sound of metal tearing. Krath raiders. 3 warships had appeared from behind an asteroid field, their black hulls bristling with weapons. They wanted something. They always wanted something. Ambassador Thrall made his decision quickly. The Krath were not here for trade goods or hostages. Intelligence reports had warned him about this. They were hunting for Valari with certain genetic markers. Ancient bloodlines that carried codes for terrible weapons. Weapons that could destroy planets. Yuna carried those markers in her blood. She did not know this. She was just a scared girl hiding under a table as her world fell apart. Thrall looked at the tactical screen. The Krath were closing fast. His ships could not win this fight. But they could run. They could escape through an emergency jump if they moved now. But the Krath had locked onto Yuna's genetic signature. As long as she was on the ship, they would follow. The ambassador did not hesitate. He gave the order. 2 guards grabbed Yuna from her hiding place. She screamed and kicked, but they were too strong. They dragged her through the corridors to a small escape pod near the cargo bay. They threw her inside and sealed the door. Through the tiny window, Yuna saw Ambassador Thrall standing in the corridor. His face showed nothing. No guilt, no sadness. Nothing at all. "Forgive me," he said. But his voice was empty. The many matter more than the one. The pod launched. Yuna tumbled inside as it shot away from the ship. She pressed her face against the window and watched the Valari convoy turn and flee. Their engines flared bright blue, and then they were gone. They jumped to safety and left her behind. The Krath ships paused. Their sensors swept the debris field. For a long moment, Yuna was sure they would find her. She curled into a ball and closed her eyes, waiting for death. But the pod was small. Its power signature was weak. The Krath scanners passed over it, searching for bigger prey. When they realized the convoy had escaped, they roared with anger and gave chase. Jumping away to hunt Yuna was alone. She floated in the darkness, surrounded by wreckage from the battle. The pod's life support hummed softly. The warning lights blinked on the small control panel. Oxygen was running out. Power was failing. In 6 hours, maybe less, she would die. She cried until she had no tears left. Then she just sat there, staring at nothing, waiting for the end. Far away, a small human cargo ship called the Rusty Nail moved through the edge of the neutral zone. It was an ugly ship, covered in patches and repairs. but it flew steady and true, carrying medical supplies to a mining colony 3 systems away. Emily Torres sat in the pilot's seat, drinking bad coffee and listening to old music from Earth. She was 32 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and tired eyes that had seen too much. Before she became a cargo pilot, she was a military medic. She had served in 3 conflicts and saved more lives than she could count. But war had broken something inside her. Now she just wanted to fly alone and forget. The distress beacon appeared on her scanner like a tiny heartbeat. Emily frowned and adjusted her instruments. The signal was weak, almost lost in the background radiation. Standard protocol said to ignore it. The neutral zone was full of traps. Pirates used fake distress calls to lure ships into ambush, but something made her pause. The signal pattern was wrong for a trap. It was too desperate. Too real. She changed course. It took 2 hours to find the pod. It was barely visible among the floating debris, a small metal shell tumbling slowly in the void. Emily brought her ship alongside and extended the docking clamp. The connection was rough, but it held. She pulled on her emergency suit and moved to the airlock. When the door opened, cold air rushed out. The pod's life support had almost failed completely. Ice crystals hung in the air. Emily climbed inside and found Una. The girl was unconscious, her blue skin turning gray from the cold. Her breathing was shallow. Another 30 minutes and she would have been dead. Emily carried her back to the rusty nail and laid her on the medical bed. She worked fast, using skills she thought she had forgotten. Warming blankets, oxygen mask, 4 fluids. Slowly, color returned to Una's face. The girl's eyes opened. They were filled with fear and confusion. "Hey," Emily said softly. "You're okay. You're safe now." Una looked around the small cabin. Her voice came out as a whisper. Where are the others? Where is the ship?" Emily checked her scanners. The Valari convoy was gone. No trace remained except debris and silence. "They left," Emily said. The words tasted bitter in her mouth. "They're gone." Una's face crumpled. A sound came from her throat, something between a sob and a scream. Emily had heard that sound before, on battlefields and in hospitals. It was the sound of someone whose world had just ended. She sat on the edge of the bed and pulled the girl into her arms. Una was shaking, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Emily held her tight and stared at the wall, feeling anger build inside her chest like a slow fire. They left her. They left a child to die alone in the dark. Emily made a decision then. She did not think about it. She did not weigh the risks. She just knew. "Listen to me," she said, pulling back to look into Una's eyes. "I don't know what happened. I don't know why they did this. But I'm not going to leave you. Do you understand? Nobody is leaving you again." Una stared at her. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. "I promise," Emily said, and she meant it. The rusty nail was never built for speed. It was a cargo hauler, designed to carry heavy loads across long distances. The engines were old. The shields were weak. The weapons were nothing more than mining lasers meant for breaking apart asteroids. But Emily pushed it as hard as she could, putting distance between them and the place where she had found Una. Una sat in the co-pilot seat, wrapped in a thick blanket. She had stopped crying, but her eyes were still red and swollen. She watched the stars pass by and said nothing. Emily did not push her to talk. Some wounds needed silence before they could begin to heal. 3 hours passed. Emily was starting to think they might be safe when her scanner lit up with warning signals. 3 ships. Big ones, coming fast from behind. "No," Emily whispered. She recognized the design. Krath Raiders. The same ones who had attacked the Valari convoy, Una saw the fear on Emily's face and understood immediately. Her body went stiff. They found me. Emily's hands flew across the controls. How? You were in a dead pod. There was no signal. My blood, Una said quietly. They can track my blood. Emily turned to look at her. What are you talking about? Una pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Her voice was small and ashamed, like she was confessing something terrible. I have something inside me. Something in my genes. The elders told me once, when I was very young. My family line carries codes for an ancient weapon. Something my ancestors built long ago. The Krath want it. They want to take it from me. Emily felt cold. That's why the Valari left you. They knew the Krath were hunting for you specifically. Una nodded. Tears formed in her eyes again. I am dangerous. Everyone who stays near me gets hurt. You should leave me too. Find another escape pod. Push me out. Save yourself. Emily stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned back to her controls and pushed the engines harder. Not happening. But you will die. Maybe. Emily's jaw was tight. But I don't run from things. And I don't throw away children. The Krath ships were gaining. Emily could see them now on the visual display. 3 black shapes cutting through the darkness, like sharks smelling blood. She needed a plan. She needed somewhere to hide. Her eyes found an asteroid field on the navigation chart. It was close, dense, full of radiation pockets that would mess with sensors. If she could reach it, she might be able to lose them. She changed course and dove toward the field. The asteroids came at them like a storm of stone. Emily flew through gaps that seemed too small, rolled around rocks that appeared from nowhere, pushed her ship to its limits. Alarms screamed. The hull groaned. But she did not slow down. Una gripped her seat with white knuckles. You fly like you are crazy. I learned from the best. Emily smiled grimly. Hold on. This is going to get worse. She found a radiation pocket and flew straight into it. The ship shuddered as energy waves crashed against the shields. Warning lights flashed everywhere. But their sensor signature disappeared. For a few precious minutes, they were invisible. Emily cut the engines and let the ship drift. Outside, the Krath hunters swept past, searching blindly. Their scanners could not see through the radiation. They circled the area, growing frustrated, then moved on to search elsewhere. Una let out a breath she had been holding. They are gone? For now. Emily checked her instruments. The ship had taken damage. One engine was running rough. Life support was working at only 70%. They could not survive another chase like that. She needed help. Emily opened her communication system and set it to a secure human frequency. This is cargo vessel Rusty Nail calling any human ship in range. I have an emergency situation. Krath raiders pursuing. Request immediate assistance. Static filled the speakers. Emily repeated her message twice more. On the third try, a voice answered. Rusty Nail, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the frigate Steadfast. We read you. What is your situation? Emily felt hope surge in her chest. The Steadfast. She knew that ship by reputation. A fast, well-armed frigate crewed by experienced fighters. If anyone could help them, it was Webb. She explained everything quickly. The abandoned girl. The Krath hunters. The genetic weapon they were seeking. Webb listened without interrupting. Understood, he said when she finished. We are 3 systems away. At maximum speed, we can reach you in 18 hours. Can you hold until then? 18 hours. It felt like a lifetime. But Emily looked at Una and made her voice steady. We'll hold. Just get here. We're burning hard. Rusty Nail. Webb out. The communication ended. Emily leaned back in her seat and let herself breathe for the first time in hours. 18 hours. They just had to survive 18 hours. Una was watching her with an expression Emily could not quite read. Why are they coming? Those other humans. They do not know me. Why would they risk themselves? Emily considered the question. It was a good one. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the oldest. Their ships were not the fastest. Their weapons were not the most powerful. But there was something different about them. Something that other species did not understand. Because we do not leave people behind, Emily said finally. It is just how we are built. When someone is in trouble, we help. Even if it is dangerous. Even if it does not make sense. Una shook her head. The Valari are not like this. When there is danger, they calculate. They measure the cost and the benefit. If saving one person risks many, they let the one die. It is logical. Maybe. Emily shrugged. But logic is cold. It does not keep you warm when you are alone in the dark. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the asteroids drifted slowly past. The radiation pocket hummed and crackled around them. I know things, Una said suddenly. About navigation. About codes. The Valari taught me before they decided I was too dangerous to keep. I know hidden jump points. Secret routes. Things that might help us. Emily raised an eyebrow. Show me. Una moved to the navigation console. Her small fingers danced across the controls, pulling up star charts and overlaying them with data Emily had never seen before. Hidden pathways appeared, shortcuts through space that avoided normal shipping lanes. Here, Una pointed. This route will take us closer to where your friends are. It passes through a nebula that will hide our signal. The craft do not know about it. Emily studied the chart. It was risky. The path was narrow and full of hazards. But it would cut their travel time significantly. How do you know all this? Una looked down. My mother was a navigator. Before she died, she taught me everything she knew. She said knowledge was the only gift that could not be taken away. Emily reached out and squeezed Una's shoulder. She was a smart woman. Let us use what she gave you. They'd plotted their new course and prepared to move. Emily waited until the Krath hunters had drifted far from their position, then fired her damaged engines and slipped out of the radiation pocket. The nebula swallowed them in clouds of purple and gold. Strange lights flickered in the distance. The sensors went fuzzy, but Una guided them with confidence, calling out directions and adjustments. For 12 hours, they flew through the hidden path. Emily barely slept. Her body ached with exhaustion, but she refused to rest while Una was awake. They talked to pass the time. Emily told stories about Earth, blue skies, green forests, oceans that stretched to the horizon. Una listened with wonder. She had never seen a planet with so much water. In return, Una spoke about her homeworld. Crystal cities that floated above pink clouds. Music that could be seen as colors in the air. Parents who loved her before sickness took them away. By the time they emerged from the nebula, they were no longer strangers. They were something more. Not family exactly, but close. Survivors bound together by circumstance and choice. Emily checked her scanner. The Krath were still hunting. 3 ships moving in a search pattern, covering the space they had to cross. But the Steadfast was closer now. Only 6 hours away. We can make it, Emily said. Una took her hand. Together. Emily smiled. It was the first real smile she had felt in a long time. Together. They flew on into the darkness, toward hope. Emily had almost believed they would make it. The Steadfast was only 2 hours away. 2 hours. So close, she could almost feel the safety of its armored hull around her. But the universe was cruel, And hope was a fragile thing. 3 black warships emerged from behind the moon like shadows given form. Their weapons powered up, glowing red against the darkness of space. They moved to surround the rusty nail, cutting off every escape route with cold precision. Emily's hands froze on the controls. Her heart pounded in her chest. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The game was over. Una made a small sound beside her. When Emily looked, she saw the girl staring at the enemy ships with eyes full of terror. But underneath the fear, there was something else. Acceptance. Like she had always known this moment would come. "You can still escape," Una whispered. "Give me to them. Tell them I forced you to take me. They might let you go." Emily turned to face her fully. "Look at me." Una looked. "I am not giving you to anyone. Do you understand? I made you a promise. I do not break my promises. But you will die." Emily smiled. It was a strange smile, calm and fierce at the same time. "Maybe, but I'm going to make them work for it." The communication system crackled. A deep voice filled the cabin, speaking in accent common. "Human vessel. This is Commander Drexus of the Krath Hunting Fleet. You have something that belongs to us. Surrender the Valari girl, and you will be allowed to leave unharmed. Refuse, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to decide." Emily looked at the 3 warships surrounding her. Each one was 10 times the size of her cargo hauler. Each one carried enough weapons to reduce her to atoms in seconds. By any logical measure, she should surrender. Any sane person would surrender. She opened the communication channel. "Commander Drexus. This is Emily Torres of the cargo vessel Rusty Nail. I have received your terms. Here is my answer." She paused for a moment, letting the silence stretch. "The girl stays with me. If you want her, you can come and take her." Then she powered up her mining lasers. The Krath commander laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of contempt. "You are brave, human. But bravery does not stop plasma fire. Very well. You have chosen death." The first shots came fast and hard. Emily threw her ship into a desperate dive, rolling beneath the incoming fire. Plasma bolts streaked past the windows, close enough to feel their heat. The shields flared and screamed under the impact of those that connected. Una screamed too, but she did not run. She stayed in her seat, gripping the armrests, watching Emily fight, and Emily did fight. She flew like a woman possessed, using every trick she knew from her military days. She wove between the enemy ships, forcing them to hold fire to avoid hitting each other. She used the dead moon's gravity to slingshot around attacks. She turned her cargo hauler into a dancing nightmare that refused to die. Her mining lasers struck back. They were not powerful enough to pierce Krath armor, but they could damage sensors. They could blind targeting systems. She aimed for weak points and soft spots, making the raiders work for every shot. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. A plasma bolt struck the rear engine. The ship lurched violently. Alarms filled the cabin with screaming red light. Another hit took out the secondary shields. A third tore a hole in the cargo bay. Air began to vent into space. Emily sealed the bulkheads. Her hands moved automatically, years of training taking over while her mind raced for options. The ship was dying around her. Life support was failing. Weapons were almost drained. One more solid hit, and they were finished. She looked at the smallest Krath ship. It had moved closer, trying to get a clean shot. Trying to end this. An idea formed in her mind. A terrible, beautiful, insane idea. "Una," she said quietly, "go to the cargo bay airlock. There is an emergency bubble there. A survival pod. Get inside and seal it." Una shook her head frantically. "No, I will not leave you. You are not leaving me. You are trusting me." Emily grabbed her shoulders and looked into her eyes. I need you to survive. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, I need you to live. Can you do that for me? Tears streamed down Yuna's face. But she nodded. Double quotes, go. Now. Yuna ran. Emily watched her disappear through the door, then turned back to her controls. The rusty nail was finished as a flying ship. But it still had mass. It still had momentum. And Emily still had one move left. She aimed her dying vessel directly at the smallest Krath warship and pushed the engines to maximum. Every warning system in the ship screamed at her to stop. She ignored them all. The Krath realized what she was doing too late. They tried to turn, tried to evade, but their ship was too big and she was too close. Emily watched the distance counter fall. 1,000 meters. 500. 100. This is for leaving her, she whispered. Impact. The collision was tremendous. The rusty nail crumpled against the Krath hull like a tin can. Metal screamed and tore. Fire bloomed in the vacuum. The force of the crash disabled the enemy ship's engines and sent it spinning into its neighbor. The second ship's shields flared as the two vessels scraped against each other, causing damage to both. Emily was thrown from her seat. She hit the wall hard enough to see stars. Something in her side cracked. Pain flooded her body like fire. But she was alive. Somehow, impossibly, she was alive. She crawled through the wreckage of her ship. Smoke filled the corridors. Sparks flew from broken wires. The artificial gravity had failed, and she pulled herself hand over hand toward the cargo bay. Yuna was there, floating inside the emergency bubble. Her eyes went wide when she saw Emily. You are hurt. I know. Emily pulled herself into the bubble and sealed it behind her. The small pod detached from the ruined ship and drifted free into space. I know. Around them, chaos reigned. The two damaged Krath ships were tangled together, their crews fighting to separate them. The third ship held back, unsure what to do. They had expected an easy kill, not a suicidal attack that crippled half their fleet. Emily floated in the bubble, bleeding and broken. But she was smiling. Told you, she said to Yuna. Her voice was weak but triumphant. Nobody is leaving. Yuna held her hand tightly, crying and laughing at the same time. You are crazy. You are completely crazy. Probably. The emergency bubble had a small beacon. It activated automatically, sending a signal into the void. Emily did not know if anyone would receive it in time. She did not know if the Steadfast was close enough to reach them before the remaining Krath ship recovered. But she had done everything she could. She had stood when running was smarter. She had fought when surrender was easier. She had kept her promise. Now all she could do was wait and bleed and hope. Yuna pressed close to her, sharing warmth in the cold of space. Stay awake, the girl begged. Please stay awake. They are coming. The other humans. They will find us. Emily tried to focus on Yuna's face. Her vision was getting blurry. Her body felt heavy and distant. But she held on. Tell me. She managed. Tell me about the crystal cities. The ones that float. Yuna understood. She began to talk, her voice shaking but steady. She described her homeworld in detail. The way the light changed color at sunset. The sound of wind moving through glass towers. The smell of flowers that grew nowhere else in the galaxy. Emily listened and let the words carry her. She did not slip away into darkness. She stayed in the light, holding on to Yuna's voice like a rope thrown to a drowning woman. Outside the bubble, the stars watched in silence, and somewhere in the distance, engines burned bright, racing against time. The Steadfast came out of hyperspace like a blade cutting through silk. One moment the sky was empty, except for wreckage and circling predators. The next moment, there was a human warship burning toward them. Weapons hot and ready. Captain Marcus Webb stood at the center of his bridge, watching the tactical display with cold fury in his eyes. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and scars on his hands from 20 years of service. He had seen a lot of terrible things in his career, but few things made him angrier than what he was seeing now. 3 craft warships, 2 of them damaged and tangled together. The third circling a tiny emergency bubble, where 2 life signs barely registered on sensors. "Tactical report," he ordered. Lieutenant Jake Reyes answered from his station. 2 enemy vessels disabled. The third is operational, but alone. Our weapons are locked. Shields at full. We have them outgunned, Captain. Good. Webb opened the communication channel to the craft. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the human frigate Steadfast. Stand down your weapons and withdraw immediately. The people in that survival pod are under our protection. If you attempt any hostile action, we will respond with overwhelming force." The craft commander's voice came back, angry and defiant. "Human, you have no authority here. This is neutral space. The girl carries Valari property. She belongs to us by right of conquest." Webb's expression did not change. "She is a child. She belongs to no one. And your rights mean nothing to me. I am giving you one chance to leave. Take it or regret it." A long silence followed. On the tactical display, Webb watched the craft ship's weapons power up. They were going to fight. He had expected as much. The craft were proud and violent. They did not accept challenges to their authority easily. "All hands, battle stations," Webb said calmly. "Jake, target their engines first. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We may need prisoners for questions later." "Yes, Captain." The craft fired first. A barrage of plasma bolts streaked toward the Steadfast, lighting up the void with angry red light. The human ship's shields absorbed the impacts without faltering. Human technology was not the most advanced in the galaxy, but humans built things to last. They built things to survive. The Steadfast returned fire with precision that bordered on art. Twin railgun batteries sent tungsten slugs tearing through space at incredible speeds. They struck the craft ship's engines exactly where Jake had aimed, ripping through armor and machinery in a spray of fire and debris. The enemy ship lurched. Its weapons fell silent as power failed. Emergency lights flickered across its hull. "Target disabled," Jake reported. "They are not going anywhere." Webb nodded. "Launch recovery shuttle. I want our people out of that bubble now." The shuttle bay doors opened, and a small craft shot out toward the drifting emergency pod. Webb watched its progress on the screen, his jaw tight with tension. The 2 life signs in the bubble were weak. One was fading. "Medical team to shuttle bay," the ship's computer announced. "Priority 1 emergency." In the shuttle, Webb himself sat beside the pilot. He had not planned to lead the recovery personally, but something had driven him to go. Maybe it was the reports he had heard about the cargo pilot who refused to abandon an alien child. Maybe it was curiosity about what kind of person would do something so brave and so foolish. The shuttle reached the bubble and extended its docking arm. The seal connected with a soft hiss. Webb moved to the airlock and opened it himself. Inside the bubble, he found them. Emily Torres was unconscious, her face pale and her flight suit soaked with blood. Her injuries were severe. Burns, broken ribs, internal bleeding. By any reasonable measure, she should already be dead. But her hand was still wrapped around the small blue hand of the girl beside her. Una was awake. Her large dark eyes looked up at Webb with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. She did not let go of Emily's hand. "She stayed," Una said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Everyone left me. Everyone always leaves. But she stayed. She fought for me. Please help her. Please. Webb knelt down and looked at the child. He had daughters of his own back on Earth, 2 girls who ran to meet him every time he came home. The thought of anyone abandoning a child like this made something burn in his chest. "We are going to help her," he said gently. "And we are going to help you. You are safe now. I promise." He lifted Emily carefully in his arms. She weighed almost nothing, drained by blood loss and exhaustion. Una followed close behind, refusing to be separated, even for a moment. The shuttle raced back to the Steadfast. Webb carried Emily directly to the medical bay, where Dr. Nadia Cole was already waiting with her team. Nadia was a stern woman with steady hands and a reputation for saving people that others had given up on. She took one look at Emily and started barking orders. "Get her on the table. Start blood replacement. I need imaging on that chest cavity now. Move, people." Webb stepped back and let the doctors work. Una stood beside him, watching through the glass window of the medical bay. Her small body was shaking. "Is she going to live?" Una asked. Webb put a hand on her shoulder. "Dr. Cole is the best surgeon I have ever known. If anyone can save her, it is Nadia." 6 hours passed. Una refused to leave the window. Crew members brought her food and blankets, but she barely touched them. She just watched and waited, her eyes fixed on the operating table where Emily lay surrounded by machines and medical staff. Webb returned several times to check on her. Each time, he found her in the same position, keeping silent watch. Finally, the doors to the medical bay opened. Dr. Cole stepped out, pulling off her surgical gloves. Her face was tired but calm. "She will live," Nadia said. "The damage was extensive, but we managed to repair everything. She will need weeks of recovery, but she will make it." Una let out a sob of relief. Her legs gave out, and she would have fallen if Webb had not caught her. "Can I see her?" Una asked. Nadia nodded. "She is sleeping, but yes. You can stay with her." Una walked into the medical bay and climbed onto a chair beside Emily's bed. She took the woman's hand in both of hers and held it against her cheek. Then she closed her eyes and finally allowed herself to rest. Webb watched from the doorway. Something tightened in his throat. "Captain," Jake's voice came over the communicator. "We have received an official message from the Valari Diplomatic Council. They are requesting the return of the girl. They say she's their citizen and belongs under their jurisdiction." Webb was silent for a long moment. He looked at Una sleeping beside the woman who had nearly died to protect her. He thought about the cold calculation that had thrown a child into space to die. He thought about what it meant to be human. "Delete the message," he said quietly. "Sir?" "I said delete it. We never received it. If they send another one, delete that too. The girl is under human protection now. Anyone who wants her will have to go through us." Jake paused. "Understood, Captain." Webb turned away from the medical bay and walked back to his bridge. There would be consequences for this decision. Political complications, diplomatic incidents, maybe even conflict. He did not care. Some things were more important than politics. Some things were worth fighting for. And somewhere in the medical bay, a small alien girl slept peacefully for the first time in years, holding the hand of the human who had refused to let her go. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Emily had ever seen. It stretched upward like a cathedral, with seats carved into the walls in rising circles. Representatives from 100 different species filled those seats, their eyes all focused on the center of the floor where Emily now stood. She was still recovering. Bandages wrapped her torso beneath her formal uniform. Every breath hurt. The doctors had told her she should not be walking yet, should not be anywhere except in a hospital bed. But some things could not wait. Ambassador Threll sat in the Valari section, his silver robes perfect, his face composed into an expression of dignified concern. He had spoken for 20 minutes already, explaining why Yuna needed to be returned to Valari custody. He used words like cultural heritage and proper guardianship and best interests of the child. He did not mention the escape pod. He did not mention leaving her to die. Now it was Emily's turn to speak. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber and looked up at the assembled representatives. Her voice was rough from the tubes they had put down her throat during surgery, but it carried clearly through the room's acoustic design. My name is Emily Torres. I am a cargo pilot. 3 weeks ago, I found a child floating in space in a failing escape pod. Her oxygen was almost gone. Her heat was failing. In 30 more minutes, she would have been dead. She paused to let that settle. I pulled her onto my ship. I gave her food and warmth and safety. And then I looked at my scanner and saw that the ships that should have protected her were gone. They had left her behind, deliberately, on purpose. They threw away a 12-year-old girl like she was garbage. A murmur ran through the chamber. Ambassador Thrall shifted in his seat but kept his composure. I learned later why they did it. The Krath were hunting her because of something in her blood. Something genetic. The Valari decided that keeping her would put their diplomatic mission at risk. So they did the math. They calculated the cost and benefit. And they decided a child's life was not worth the trouble. Emily turned to look directly at Thrall. Is that accurate, Ambassador? Did I miss anything? Thrall rose from his seat. His voice was smooth and practiced. The situation was complicated. We were under attack. Difficult decisions had to be made. The needs of the many outweighed. She is 12 years old. Emily cut him off, her voice suddenly sharp as broken glass. She is a child who watched her own people abandon her. She sat in that pod, alone, watching her oxygen run out, knowing that no one was coming to save her. Do you understand what that does to a person? Do you have any idea? The chamber fell silent. You talk about the needs of the many. You talk about difficult decisions. But what you really mean is that her life did not matter enough. She was inconvenient. She was a problem. So you threw her away and hoped the problem would solve itself. Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. This is a recording from my ship's computer. It shows everything. The pod. The failing life support. The Valari convoy jumping away while a child died in the dark. I submit it as evidence. She handed the chip to a council attendant. Ambassador Thrall's composure finally cracked. A flash of real fear crossed his face. This is outrageous, he said, his voice rising. The human has no right to lecture us on morality. They are newcomers to the galactic community. They do not understand our ways. The girl must be returned to her people. It is the law. A new voice cut through the chamber. No, everyone turned. Captain Webb had stood up in the human section. He walked down to stand beside Emily, his posture straight, his expression hard. The girl is under human protection now, he said. She stays with us. You cannot simply claim a Valari citizen, Thrall protested. There are protocols, treaties, legal frameworks. Webb looked at him with something close to contempt. Your protocols allowed you to murder a child through neglect. Your treaties did not stop you from throwing her into space. Your legal frameworks mean nothing if they do not protect the innocent. He turned to address the full council. I am Captain Marcus Webb of the human frigate Steadfast. I formally invoke the right of sanctuary under human law. Yuna has requested protection from harm. We have granted it. Anyone who wants to take her from us will have to use force. And I promise you, we will respond in kind. Another murmur swept through the chamber. Several species exchanged worried glances. Humans were not the most powerful race in the galaxy, but they had a reputation. They fought like cornered animals when pushed. They did not surrender. They did not back down. Wars against humans were long, bloody, and never worth the cost. The council president, an ancient being with 4 arms and patient eyes, raised a hand for silence. "This is an unusual situation," he said slowly. "The legal claims are complicated, but before we proceed, there is someone else who wishes to speak." A door at the side of the chamber opened. Una walked in. She was wearing a simple blue dress that one of the steadfast crew members had given her. Her hair was brushed clean. Her face was nervous but determined. She walked to the center of the chamber and stood between Emily and Webb. The council president looked down at her kindly. "You are Una of the Valari. You understand that this hearing will determine your future." Una nodded. "Then speak, child. Tell us what you want." Una was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was small but clear. "I have been alone for a long time. After my parents died, no one wanted me. I was passed from place to place like a package. The Valari who were supposed to protect me saw me as a burden. When danger came, they threw me away without a second thought." She paused, gathering courage. "Emily found me in the dark. She was a stranger. She had no reason to help me. But she pulled me onto her ship and wrapped me in blankets and told me I was safe. When the Krath came, she could have given me up. She could have saved herself. Instead, she fought. She nearly died to protect me." Tears were streaming down Una's face now, but her voice did not waver. "The Valari ask why I should not be returned to them. I will tell you why. Because they left me to die. And she almost died to save me." She pointed at Emily. "I know who my people are now. They are not the ones who share my blood. They are the ones who stood beside me when it mattered." The chamber was utterly silent. Una turned to look at Ambassador Threll. Her young face held no hatred, only a terrible sadness. "You asked about the needs of the many and the needs of the few. You said my life was worth less than your mission." But she did not calculate. She did not measure. She just came for me because I was alone and scared and dying. That is the difference between you and her. That is why I choose the humans." She walked to Emily's side and took her hand. Emily looked down at her, tears in her own eyes. She squeezed Una's hand gently. The council president was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "The council will recess to consider this matter. But I will say this. I have served on this body for 200 years. I have seen many debates about law and custom and treaty. Very few have moved me as this one has. The young one speaks truth. Blood is not the only thing that makes a family. Sometimes family is the people who stay." He looked at Emily and Webb. "The humans will retain custody of the child while we deliberate. This session is concluded." As the chamber emptied, Ambassador Thrall caught Emily's eye. His face was twisted with frustration and wounded pride. "This is not over," he said coldly. "You have made powerful enemies today." Emily met his gaze without flinching. "Good. Then you know how it feels to be scared and alone." She turned her back on him and walked out of the chamber with Una's hand still in hers. Webb beside them, into a future uncertain but full of hope. 6 months later, Emily and Una stood together on the observation deck of the Steadfast, watching a blue and green planet grow larger in the viewport. "That is Earth," Emily said. "My home." Una pressed her face against the glass. "It has so much water. And green. It is beautiful. Would you like to see it? Really see it, I mean. Walk on the ground. Feel the wind." Una's eyes went wide. "We can do that?" Emily smiled and put an arm around her shoulders. "I have family there. A sister who cannot wait to meet you. A house with a garden. A cat who will probably sleep on your head." "What is a cat?" Emily laughed. "You will find out." They watched Earth grow closer, spinning slowly against the stars. Una leaned against Emily, warm and content. Emily? Yes? Why did you stop for me? That first day. You did not know me. You did not know anything about me. Why did you come? Emily thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. Because you were alone, she said finally. And nobody should have to be alone. Una smiled. It was a real smile, bright and full. I am not alone anymore. No. Emily pulled her closer. You are not. And as their ship descended toward the blue planet below, Una knew that she had finally found what she had been searching for all her life. Not just a home. Not just a family. Something more. Someone who stayed.